routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site X-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554. Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
It's time for the most interactive radio program in Las Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
All right, what's up, everybody? It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. We are broadcasting everywhere, not just on the AM dial. Also, my YouTube PTL Vegas page, our Facebook PTL Vegas fan page, and my personal Twitter page, which is Pushing Limits LV. So we are all over the place. So glad you could join us. We got some great guests lined up for you today, as we always do. Roger Stone yesterday, I got a lot of messages from a lot of people that were talking about that. Some people thought I was a little bit too nice to him, but hey, you know, it was an interesting interview. We got some great guests lined up today. Comedian Lindsay Glazer is going to be joining us a little bit later on in the show. She is going to be at Wise Guys Comedy Club in Vegas this weekend. So she's going to be coming in hour number 2. And I've been wanting to talk to the UNLV athletic director, Eric Harper, for quite some time now after he hired a new UNLV football coach in Barry Odom, who's actually going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. UNLV athletic director, Eric Harper, will be joining us a little bit later on in the show. Now, it's been a little while since we had this guy in studio. Of course, you know him as the former DA here in Las Vegas. Thomas Moskal joining us in studio right now to give some legal expertise on some big news stories that broke out over the course of the last few days. Thomas, it is good to see you, my friend. It's been a little while. People have been asking me, where's Thomas? Where's Thomas? Here you are.
Who's been asking you?
Some friends of the show. Where's Thomas? How come he hasn't been in studio? Here you are.
I've just been busy. I've been busy keeping people out of jail. It's Christmas, man. We don't need people in jail paying high fines.
Well, you're doing a great job representing Donald Trump and keeping him out of jail. I just wanted to praise you for that. You're doing a wonderful job.
I'm still waiting to get paid, though.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that strange? I thought he had money. But
maybe he'll file for bankruptcy like Alex Jones. I don't know. Maybe he will. Anyway, Thomas, good to see you. I'm glad you're here, and we got a lot to talk about, some serious topics to get to. You know, I want to share a COVID story real quickly before we get to some news. And a friend of mine who's a host here in Las Vegas, I was talking to her yesterday, lady maybe in her 50s, and she got COVID a year ago. And I haven't talked to her recently, and she said she's had some horrible long COVID, I guess they're calling it now, where there's articles and people are, struggling even months, even years after getting COVID, and she is really struggling. So I just wanted to put my thoughts and prayers out to her and her family. She's not doing very well, and she got COVID a year ago. And I want people to understand, because I'm someone who almost died of COVID, and I just want to say there are a lot of people out there that are still struggling with the after effects of COVID. A lot of people don't understand that, and we need to think about that. And I think it's really important. And I don't even want to get into the Ron DeSantis stuff, him going after the CDC, people going after Dr. Fauci, people saying that the vaccines kill millions of people, which is obviously not true. I'm not going to go into that. All I just want to say is we need to think about there are a lot of people in this country that are still suffering. There are people that are still getting COVID and suffering, and there are people that are dealing with the long COVID, after effects of COVID. And my heart goes out to them. I just wanted to say that because I had a very difficult conversation with a friend of mine. And we need to think about that before we start going after doctors and nurses and Dr. Fauci and all that stuff. That's all I ask. Anyway, this is a story that broke out, Thomas, a few days ago. Chris Beard was the UNLV head basketball coach for about a week. Then he jumped ship. I've heard rumors about him that he likes to drink. Not the nicest guy in the world, but he is pretty darn good basketball coach. In the grand scheme of life, that doesn't matter. I understand that. Texas, good basketball team. And a couple of days ago, we learned that Chris Beard was arrested in the middle of the night for allegedly assaulting his fiance. More stories in third degree. I believe he was charged, made bail $10,000. And now we're learning that it was the fiance that claimed that he was throwing her around the room, that she had bruises on her legs, that he tried to strangle her for at least 5 seconds, cutting off breathing circulation. These are very, very serious allegations. What are your thoughts when you first heard this story? And is Chris Beard in a lot of trouble?
Well, it's a domestic violence situation. I've seen a lot of it. I mean, look, couples get into heated arguments. When I first saw the story, I mean, it makes complete sense. The problem is with him, it's a serious offense because he's being charged with a felony. It's a third-degree felony down there in Texas, and the same thing applies here in Vegas and a lot of states. Once you cut off air circulation, according to the report, he threw that arm in front of her, kind of like got behind her and squeezed. Once you impede any air, automatically becomes a felony. And the big issue is the dirty little secret in prosecution of domestic violence is most of these cases are not prosecuted to the fullest extent.
Right.
Most felony strangulation cases are dealt down to misdemeanors. But Chris Beard's problem is, look, he's a high-profile figure. And whenever you're in the news and the media is following it, well, the DA's office and the prosecutors are going to be a little leery of just dealing the case down because now the media is going to be questioning it. When I read in the reports, there was also bite marks on her. And one thing that Chris Beard did is when he talked to police, he said, well, I've got video of the recording of the whole thing that shows that basically he wasn't at fault. Maybe it was self-defense. And the police go, well, would you share the video with us? And he says, no. Well, now that he's told the police that the video exists, they're going to be able to get it. Right. And
do you think he's telling the truth?
They probably had surveillance inside their house. I don't know why he would say that unless, look, a lot of defendants do that. They go, I have video exonerating me. I have clients that
that's bad.
Have given video over to the police thinking it exonerates.
They probably would have tried to get that video anyway, even if he didn't say anything. But now they know that there's a video out there. He's in trouble.
Well, a lot of times the police don't do that follow-up on a case like this, but because it's high profile, they might have taken that extra step to go to the house to try and get that surveillance video. So yeah, it's probationable. If he got prosecuted to the fullest extent and got convicted of this third-degree felony, assault, family violence, by strangulation, it could be 2 to 10 years in prison.
Wow.
But you could also get probation. But a lot of these things do get dealt down. His case is just going to be heavily scrutinized because of who he is.
Do you believe that there will be a time where any of that video could be released to the public?
That's interesting. I mean, we know that Texas has some pretty strict laws about releasing those kind of videos, but we don't even know if the police got the surveillance. We just know Chris Beard said it existed, right? And so I would doubt that we'd ever actually get the surveillance from within the house.
So knowing what you know, let me ask you this. We've heard rumors and a statement made by his attorney saying that the person who he allegedly assaulted doesn't want to press charges. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Obviously, his attorney is going to say anything and everything for the client. If that is true, and I don't know if it is, but if his fiance who he allegedly assaulted says, I don't want to press charges, does it matter at this point?
It definitely matters. And prosecutors that prosecute family violence and domestic violence, they're used to that. I mean, the girlfriends, the wives, the family members, they never want to press charges after the fact, but they called 911 like she did because they were scared at the time. Now, the decision is not going to be in her hands. But in Texas, they actually have these things called affidavits of non-prosecution.
Mhm.
So she would probably sign an affidavit under oath and say, I don't want him prosecuted. And they have to be really carefully worded to not, reaffirm what happened that night, but I don't want him prosecuted. And when you give that over to a prosecutor, basically they start having some proof issues on their case because they're going, well, our key witness, probably the only witness, is now giving either a conflicting statement or says, I don't want to prosecute. The biggest deal is when you're a prosecutor, you're always worried about two things. Is the investigator who put all the time and effort in the case going to be mad that you dealt the case down, or is the victim going to be mad? And when you get that affidavit of non-prosecution, that's something for you to slip in the file and go, the victim under oath said they didn't want to prosecute. It also gave me a heads up that if we go to trial, we're going to have some issues with this witness and with the testimony. And so it really gives the prosecutor cover to be able to deal the case down, which they're going to need because the media is covering this bad boy.
So what we know is that Chris Beard has officially been suspended without pay. And the University of Texas put out a general statement saying, yes, they're going to, and I'm paraphrasing here, they're going to follow the case closely. They don't tolerate any, this sort of crime if in fact he did commit it. I personally believe even if he gets probation, which is very possible, you might be right. I hope he doesn't if he's guilty, but he might. I'm not sure he ever coaches college basketball again. This is a very, very serious charge. And if there is video, if police do find the video, that'll obviously make it a lot worse for Chris Beard. I don't think he can claim self-defense here. I would assume, and let me ask you this question because I'm making an assumption, but with your legal expertise, do you believe if this woman is claiming she had bruises on her legs, do you believe that somebody took some pictures of the injuries?
That's proper police investigation. When you go to the scene of a domestic violence, even the smallest red mark that could be a scratch, bruising, yes, you're supposed to take photos of all of that. They should have had body camera on at the scene too to record everything that she's saying there, because these domestic violence victims tend to change their story when they hit the stand.
Right.
And so that's why body camera comes in handy nowadays, because you get to the scene when they're still in their emotional state. She's like, yeah, he choked me, put his arm behind me, smacked the glasses off my face. And what I heard, she actually has a bite mark on her arm. Now, that bite mark on the arm is interesting because, self-defense is an affirmative defense. You put it forward. It's not even an affirmative defense. The prosecutor has to prove it's not self-defense. And if she has a bite mark on her arm, that might show that maybe she was attacking him at some point, right? I mean, she's given her side of the story to the police. Who knows what really happened behind closed doors?
That changes a lot, and that's why they need to see the video. For example, if she did start the physical altercation first, and she's striking him in any way, you have a right to put your hands around somebody's neck, do you not? What is the law there?
There's not a strict black and white, you can put your hands around somebody's neck and choke them. I'm sure he's a lot bigger than her. I've never seen pictures of her, but I'm sure he's a lot bigger than her. He's a guy. To get in behind and start choking somebody out, it's probably not reasonable.
Even for 5 seconds, because that's what the report says.
It just all depends, right? Because self-defense is predicated on reasonableness.
Right.
What was reasonable for you to do to defend yourself? So if let's say you're a 6'6", linebacker, and there's a 5'1" female right there, how much force do you really need to apply to defend yourself, right? Do you need to knock somebody out? Do you need to apply an arm bar and snap their arm? I mean, it's all like this spectrum.
I understand that, but
biting.
But we can all agree, if whoever started the physical confrontation first, that is a big point of emphasis. Got to be in this case, right? If she started physically assaulting him first, that changes a lot. I'm not going to excuse everything that Chris Beard did allegedly, but if he's the one who started the physical altercation first, anything involving self-defense or there was no weapon used, we know that throws everything out the window. Isn't that a huge point of emphasis, or should be in this case?
Well, in every self-defense case, who starts the altercation is a big factor in how it plays, because you can only escalate things so much if you're the one who started it. Right. The thing is, what she told police is this: she broke his glasses on purpose in an argument. He came in the bedroom mad about the glasses. He then smacked the glasses off of her face. They then got into an altercation. He grabbed her leg. He drug her off the bed, which is where the bruises came from, according to her. And then at some point, he bit her arm. She had the bite marks, according to the report. And then at some point he got behind her and threw that little forearm behind her and choked her for a bit, which is what escalated this to felony. Whenever you're dating somebody or even your brother or sister, as soon as you choke, it only has to take a split second of them saying, yeah, I couldn't breathe for half a second. All of a sudden, this is worthy of being charged as a felony. Now, it all comes down to prosecutorial discretion here. What are they going to pursue? What kind of plea are they going to try and get out of this guy? And down in there in Texas, I mean, let's be real. I mean, he's the head basketball coach. The community's probably going to want him protected at some point. And so there's going to be a lot of backdoor politicking that goes on what's going to happen here. And you're right. His professional livelihood's at stake. He makes a lot of money. He's probably got high-powered attorneys down there that are very well connected.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction, Thomas.
I'd love to hear it.
And then I'm going to ask you for yours. But here's my prediction. Number one, and I'm not even talking about legally what's going to happen. I'm just saying in general terms. If one of two or both of these things happen, if a video is released or if there are pictures that are released publicly, if TMZ, for example, gets their hands on a picture of a bite mark or bruised legs, if any of that stuff becomes public, I don't think he ever coaches college basketball again. Now, if all that stuff is sealed and it's never leaked, and never becomes public, he gets probation. I don't think he'll ever coach at Texas again, but I do think he will probably coach somewhere else, assuming that he's, slap on the wrist, misdemeanor. He'll probably coach basketball again somewhere. It's not going to happen anytime soon. It ain't going to happen at Texas. But I'm telling you right now, from a public's point of view, if those pictures are released of him, whether it was self-defense or not, sadly, bite marks and bruises that he did on his fiancée publicly, I don't think he'll ever coach college basketball again.
Now, I highly doubt it qualifies as legal self-defense. It's just going to be something for the defense attorney to kind of.
But you get my point, though. You get my point. If it's a public situation where something is released, whether it be a bite mark or something, I think he's in a lot of trouble. I'm not even talking about the legal ramifications. As far as the legal ramifications, you're the expert, not me, but I'll give you my opinion on that. Is somebody trying to steal a car outside? I don't know what's going on out there. Maybe it's Chris Beard. Anyway, Chris Beard's trying to break into my car right now. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
Allegedly,
he's trying to break into my car right now. There's bruises on my car. Anyway, so there it goes again. As far as the legal ramifications go, I don't think he's ever been arrested before. I don't think he has a police record. He's got a lot of money, which means you're going to get pretty good legal representation. There's no chance he's going to go to jail. Even if there is a video, I don't see any chance he's going to jail as a first-time offender, even though this is a very serious circumstance. So I believe he will probably get probation, and there'll probably be some sort of plea deal, and he will never go to jail. He'll admit to some wrongdoing, and that'll be the end of it. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, but this with this case, if I was his attorney, I'd go, any admission or even a plea to a lesser misdemeanor of domestic violence or even battery in this situation is going to really shake out badly for him professionally, right? He's not just a normal person. Like you said, he might not ever coach again. So you may want to actually press this case, because what happens in most domestic violence cases, I'm going to be real frank with you, is the girlfriend or wife doesn't show up to court. The case gets dismissed. They serve some kind of notice that they can re-indict the case if they need to. If the victim comes forward and says, I meant to show up, I don't know why I got dismissed, but overwhelming majority of these cases get dismissed. And if she decided not to show up to court, she decided not to comply with the subpoena, the only way they would put this case on to prove it against him, they would have to get a warrant for her arrest, material witness warrant, arrest the victim in a case, bring her in. And as prosecutors, we usually only do that in really egregious cases when you have a very violent guy. And that is one way it could shake out to where his case does get dismissed. Out of all the cases in the criminal justice system, domestic violence is the one most likely to be dismissed by a prosecutor.
Interesting.
He could end up, given those issues, they could negotiate something where, well, he does like intense domestic violence counseling for 13 weeks, 16 weeks, a year long, and then it gets dismissed at the end if he does everything.
Was there anything in the police report or anything involving this case that you saw where alcohol was involved? Because I've heard rumors about Chris Beard that he likes to kick him back and drink. Was there anything like that in the report?
I don't recall seeing any of that in the report. but it wouldn't surprise me if it was predicated on alcohol.
Right.
It wouldn't.
Right.
So,
All right. Well, how do you think this thing ends? What do you think happens here? If you had to give your best prediction, what do you think?
look, if I was his attorney, we're going to let this thing drag out for a while. We're going to go through all the discovery, let the media kind of die down. And then I want to get in there with the DA of that city and somehow get a dismissal at the end of the case. He'll do whatever he needs to do. Community service, intense counseling, public apology, whatever he needs to do, and not have this on his record. And it's just a domestic violence arrest that was dismissed. And that puts him in the best position now professionally going forward. Right?
You think he ever coaches again?
Well, I'll leave that more to you. What's happening to these coaches that get accused of domestic violence?
Well, I'll tell you this.
Well, let me say this. I know the NFL, they don't care what goes on the criminal prosecution. They do their own independent investigation,
Well,
right?
it's very inconsistent, but we're living in a different era now. Let me give you an example. And by the way, I don't want to compare what happened to my friend to Chris Beard and the possibility of putting your hands on a woman, because these are very different circumstances. But I'm going to give you a quick story. Personal friend of mine. He's the former national college basketball coach of the year when he was at Iowa State. I'm talking about my friend Larry Eustace, and I love him to death. He's like a second dad to me, and he's a great friend. So Larry, he's had some anger issues in the past. He's a foaming at the mouth type of coach. That's the word I would use.
Your voice went high.
Yeah, he kind of uses foul language from time to time. And when he was coaching at Colorado State, he used some foul language. Never put his hand on a player. Never showed up drunk or anything like that. Never anything close to that. Never alleged anything like that. But he did use verbal harassment, like many other coaches do, by the way. He called them the C word, in a horrible word describing a woman. He would call them that on the sidelines. He would verbally abuse them from time to time, which many coaches do, sadly. It is what it is. And Colorado State fired him because a couple parents complained to the athletic director. And this is Larry Eustace. This is a guy who has won everywhere. And he was fired. He was let go for a cause. So I'm going to tell you right now, if my friend gets fired for doing something like that, just verbally going after his players to try to motivate them or whatever the case may be, Chris Beard cannot be the head coach there anymore.
Let me push back a little bit and say, do you think there's a difference between how your friend, he's conducting himself like that towards players on the team and in his job, whereas there's a distinction here where what's happening with Chris Beard is in his personal life, away from what's going on at work? There's a little bit of a distinction there, right?
There is a distinction, but you also represent the university. You represent the school, whether it was on their dime and you were working or not. I don't think that should matter. I think your employer should have the right to make that decision because you're making the school look bad. If in fact you did put your hands on a woman and it wasn't self-defense, I don't know if it was or it wasn't. But certainly when you talk about the strangulation, that to me doesn't seem like self-defense. To me, it just seems like the guy went into. Here's what I think
you're safe saying that.
Yes.
It's not self-defense.
No.
Based on what
here's
what
what
we're
I think
seeing.
happened. I think this guy got into a heated debate and argument. It was late in the evening. He might have been intoxicated. While that is not an excuse, he might not have. He's got anger issues. He obviously lost his mind and did something that you should never do. Put your hands on anybody, let alone a woman, no matter how angry you might be at them. Was she wrong if she, broke his glasses? Yeah, that's a really dumb thing to do.
Here's the thing with domestic violence cases, and as prosecutors, we always keep this in mind. The time that they call the police and somebody shows up, this isn't the first time that there's been heated arguments and perhaps violence in the home. And that's why prosecutors that's why we take it a lot more serious in this country now. That's symptomatic of something that this guy may have a history of doing this. We just don't know about it.
Right. That's also very true.
But no prior 911 calls, no prior arrests. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a history on paper of doing this. Mm-hmm. And so, hopefully he learns his lesson here.
And the grand scheme of things, whatever it says on your headstone, it's not about how good of a basketball coach you are. Yeah, we all know Chris Beard is a very good head basketball coach. It's about who you are as a person, family man, husband, father, whatever the case may be. In the end, when it's done, that's what people want to talk about, right? At least most people. What type of person were you? So I don't care how good of a basketball coach Chris Beard is. If he did what we think he did, it's absolutely despicable. And he needs to get help. And he needs to be criticized for a very, very long time. And he needs to do what is necessary to make sure this never happens again. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. All right, he's Thomas Moskal. He is the former DA here in Las Vegas. Good to have him in studio. We are going to talk about a very controversial case that involves body camera footage with an officer involved shooting. One person is dead in this shooting. The person who died had an axe in his hand, but why was he shot in the head? It's a story that is now starting to pick up some speed in national news. Why? Because the body camera footage was just released. Here's the kicker. That officer that we are going to talk about is back on the streets as a police officer. We'll get Thomas Moskal's opinion on that. I'm Brian Shapiro. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limit right here. KSHP. Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
STN Sports is the only sports betting app you need this season. STN Sports has it all. In-play betting, mobile parlay cards, the Play Plus card to fund and withdraw from anywhere in Nevada, and the latest lines on every game. STN Sports even lets you earn rewards on every bet. Safe and easy betting from your phone or tablet. Go to stationcasinosports.com or sign up at any Station Casino, Fiesta Wildfire, or the El Cortez. Details at the sportsbooks.
It's nice.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. So glad that you can join us. And coming up here at the top of the hour, comedian Lindsay Glazer is going to be joining us in the studio. She's got a pretty cool gig at Wise Guys Comedy Club and also recording an album with these two shows on Friday and Saturday. So we'll be talking to her coming up here in just a few at the top of the hour. We got UNLV's athletic director, Eric Harper, that will be joining us in hour number 2. Want to tell you guys about my favorite gaming bar in Las Vegas. You know, I was at Jackson's Bar and Grill yesterday. Thomas Moskal joining us in the studio as well. And I hit a straight flush. Can you believe that? Yes, a straight flush. Very rare.
Are you serious?
A straight flush. And I'll tell you why I hit a straight flush, because Chris Wynn was nowhere near me. That's why. He wasn't even in the bar. He wasn't in the vicinity. I went with my friend Andrew. We went down there and had probably the best BLT sandwich I've ever had. The food there is so great. They got some new slot machines installed there. And
well, they have a good payout structure over there at Jackson's.
They do.
They don't rape the customers to lose.
No,
you hit the straight flush.
I've been very lucky there recently, and I hit a straight flush. And they got some great promotions in December, by the way. Every Sunday, you earn 200 points. You get $50 in free play. Mondays, you earn 200 points. You get a free bottle of wine. Who doesn't like that? And Tuesdays, 10-time points all day. Some restrictions do apply. It is awesome. And I had some luck there yesterday. So please check it out. My favorite gaming bar in town, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. All right, Thomas, it seems like, while there is a lot of great police work out there, and I think we both agree, most officers do a great job and they're heroes and they work hard every day to protect and serve. There's a situation out here in Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Police Department, that is very, very troubling. So, new released body camera footage appears to show an unidentified Jacksonville, Florida officer shooting and killing a man holding an axe after refusing in order to put it down and attempting to talk to the officer. To give you a little bit of background on this, police received a call, mentally ill man hiding out in the woods with a very small axe. He wasn't really threatening anybody. He does have a police record, but that should be academic to this situation. So a police officer finds him in the woods, immediately takes his gun out, points it towards him, and gives him several commands. Put the axe down, put the axe down. The guy does respond and say no. In no point in that video is the guy lunging towards the officer. In no point in that video, no reasonable person would say that officer's life was in danger. Now, if that guy threw the axe at him, totally different ballgame. If that guy even moved towards him in a threatening way, totally different ballgame. None of that stuff happened. The officer, and this only took about 10 or 15 seconds, right? Several commands. You saw the video as I did. Then the officer shoots him in the head and kills him. Now, obviously, if you have a weapon in your hand, any type of weapon, and an officer gives you a command, you put the weapon down. But that doesn't justify, we're not talking about a gun pointed at an officer. That would be we're talking about an axe. To me, this video does not constitute the right of that officer to do what he did and kill this man. And here's the worst part about this story. That officer is back on the streets within the Jacksonville Police Department. He's working again, and we don't even know his name.
Well, they found no wrongdoing when they did their internal investigation.
So, Thomas, you've covered situations.
If there's no wrongdoing, you're going back on the street.
How, though? How is it? Give me your opinions on this from start to finish. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I watched the body cam video, and when he shot, I just said, dang, that was quick. Dang, that was quick. And I'm a big advocate. I've done a lot of officer-involved shooting reviews here in Vegas, and I'm usually the one saying, man, you should have shot him sooner. But that's our Vegas officers. They wait too long sometimes. They put themselves in jeopardy. But this is one where I said, man, you went really, really quick. And I saw a former officer get interviewed down there about the Jacksonville shooting. And he said, look, in his opinion, you try to de-escalate a little bit, try to talk to the guy a little bit. There's 2 officers on scene. If you watch the body cam, there's another officer with them right there. And so they come in, and what it came down to me when I looked at it from the body cam is this officer already had it in his mind that if he got any resistance or there was any show of a threatening gesture whatsoever, that he was going to go deadly force on him. And that's not necessarily what we want our officers to do. So yeah, I'm not going to say that it was completely unjustified, once the guy raises the axe up, I don't think an officer needs to wait till it gets thrown, but man, it was quick. And especially when you hear in context, the guy goes, man, listen, bro, boom. And he was shot right in the head. And I just think that officer had it in his mind, to do what he did. And I think it was quick.
So do you think that he should have been charged with something?
No, look, I don't think it rises to that level.
You don't?
No, it doesn't rise to the level of you're going to criminally prosecute this guy. I mean, what you're watching is offensive that he went so quickly on the guy, but the guy did raise a deadly weapon above his head. He did disobey commands, but man, it was a quick shoot. It was a real quick shoot. That was a tough one. I don't agree with what the officer did. I don't.
Do you believe that he should have been fired? Let's forget about even the legal ramifications. You've already said you don't believe that. But
I'll say this. Look, there's 2 things going. One is, should you be criminally prosecuted as an officer going into a situation like that? The other one is, internally, what's the police department doing? And for them to say no wrongdoing on his part, I think their procedures have got to be a little bit more strict than that in that department. If not, they need to clean up their procedures. Here in Las Vegas, there's a lot of times where you have righteous shoots by officers that no one would even question. And like I said, I would watch the video and say, you should have gone sooner. You put everybody in jeopardy not going sooner on him. Those officers sometimes really get reamed because they have all these internal procedures of, you need to do everything in order to create distance. I mean, that's one thing the officer did wrong. He doesn't create distance. He goes as close as he can to the guy.
Yeah.
Like you see, he has the axe, start backing away from him. There's only so far he can throw this thing. Keep your eye on him. Get the other officer, wait for backup. Do all these things before you just try to take somebody's life. So yeah, I disagree with Jacksonville just exonerating him completely internally as no wrongdoing.
Here's where I disagree with you. And this is just an opinion, right? Nothing legally, just my opinion. If an officer's life is not in jeopardy, clearly this is the case here. That officer's life was never in jeopardy. As I said, if the guy attempted to throw the axe, shoot him. If the guy was lunging toward him with a weapon, like an axe, shoot him. 100%. I'm on board with that. He didn't do any of those things. If an officer's life is not in jeopardy and they use deadly force, in my personal opinion, this is an opinion, they should be charged with a crime. Now, whether it be, I'm not going to say attempted murder, whether that be involuntary manslaughter, whatever, I think that officer needs to be charged with something because I think it sets a bad precedence. Well, the officer shouldn't have done it, but we're not going to charge him with a crime. I'm not saying the officer got out of his squad car and said, boy, I can't wait to kill somebody today. That's not.
It kind of looks like that might have been
maybe
what was in his head.
Maybe.
Look, they had been searching for this guy earlier in the day.
I think this officer knew who this guy was. Yeah.
I think this guy's known in the community. I mean, I'm just going to speculate on what I've read so far.
Yep.
But they got a 911 call earlier that this guy was out there in this woods. Police went, tried to find him. They couldn't. Get another 911 call later. He's cutting the power to the house, whatever it is. And look, I think part of it was like a little bit of Charlie Bronson. Like, I'm going to clean up the community right here.
Let me give you a little context on who this guy was. This guy Mahan, who was killed. He does have a lengthy history of encounters with the law. So let's talk about that, even though it shouldn't have any bearing on this.
He does have a prior conviction, if you know who he is, for having a firearm when he's not supposed to.
Also armed robbery, previously sentenced to prison after a conviction of being a felon in possession of a firearm. Correct. He was arrested a year ago after an alleged attempted carjacking incident and pleaded no contest to resisting arrest. He served 30 days in jail. Okay, yeah. Obviously, this guy is mentally deranged.
So,
He's
so
a
you take
criminal.
that. So let's just speculate a little bit more. Let's say they got a 911 call. They know who it is. They know what this guy's history is. They go, look, prior violent conviction for armed robbery. He's known to have firearms after he had a felony conviction. He wasn't supposed to. And you only see the axe there. But in the officer's mind, he's coming up on a guy who possibly could have firearms there, has mental health issues, has an arrest from just, I think, a year prior where he was resisting officers or something like that. So when you start taking everything in context, you're like, okay, now what's really going through that officer's head when he hits that scene? But the video itself, no, you create space. The guy didn't seem like he was being aggressive at that point. You try to talk to him a little bit. Don't just bark at him the whole time. I wouldn't. It's not a clear case of like you don't prosecute. I know what you're saying, and if you got that in front of a jury, which is the way I always analyze every case, whether I'm the defense side of the prosecution, I look at it real quick. I go, what would a jury think when they watch this video? They're going to think the same thing you're thinking, and then I'm thinking, right? Which is, it was quick and looked unjustified. He definitely wasn't scared for his life. He wasn't personally scared. I mean, I thought it was comical a little bit at the end when the other officer goes, "You good?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm good." It's like, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you're
of course
good.
you're good.
This guy's
you weren't
not
even
good.
you weren't scared one bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No medical help immediately either. I noticed that, but I mean, obviously, maybe they just looked at him and they figured, yeah.
Well, no, he called in for medical
He
right
did call
away. Yeah,
medical.
he said we need medical right away. But the way he had the gun trained on him, I don't think the headshot was accidental. It looked like he was taking aim. He was pretty locked in for the headshot on that. As soon as he raised,
Aren't you trained to shoot center mass? You're not trained to shoot somebody in the head. I thought police training was you're trained to shoot center mass. I thought.
Well, the reason why you shoot center mass is because you don't want to miss.
Right.
You want to do some damage. You want to stop somebody. This is a tough case. If he was prosecuted, I wouldn't say, "Oh, this is a crazy prosecution to happen."
But he wasn't even.
But-
He's back on the force. He wasn't even fired.
Administrative leave while they went ahead and looked into everything,
Which is normal protocol with any officer.
I'll tell you this. This isn't the kind of they're protecting his identity. I don't know if you knew this. But
They are.
Marcy's Law is a law that protects victims in cases. So if you're a victim in a case, your stuff will not be made public to the newspapers and things because you're a victim. Down in Florida, they actually got a Supreme Court ruling down there allowing Marcy's Law to be applied to police officers in shootings like this, as if he is now the victim in the case. So now his identity is protected.
Listen,
from the
Thomas,
public.
I understand that, but this also goes both ways. And I will defend the officer in the Ferguson shooting, right, with Michael Brown. Michael Brown charged towards the officer, completely different case. The evidence proved that. Witnesses even said that Brown charged toward the officer. That officer did absolutely nothing wrong. And, he was just attacked, and his name is out there. And I don't even know if that guy's even an officer anymore. His life was ruined because some stupid kid or young adult, whatever you want to call Michael Brown, commits a strong arm robbery, gets out of there, and then thinks it's okay to assault a police officer. That's a death wish when you do that. I defended that officer throughout the whole thing. I didn't see any evidence that supported the fact that that was a bad shooting. And yet, one of my biggest criticisms of Barack Obama was the way he handled that situation, bringing members of his administration to the funeral of Michael Brown. Barack Obama made a very big mistake there. That was disgusting. That was wrong. This is not wrong. That officer's name should be public. And it should be public because people should know if you're dealing with this guy, you better be careful with this police officer.
Well, that was going to be my thing to you is as just a member of the community.
Yeah, you want to know.
You don't want a quick trigger officer out there. It's
Of
not even
course
I
not.
want to know who he is, but just
I agree.
the fact that he's back on the force, he had a really quick trigger that day.
Agree.
And
Yep.
it seemed like he had a decision made in his mind when he got out of that car of what he was going to do if something happened. And
But Thomas, at a minimum, even if some might say that this isn't criminal, what this police officer did, at a minimum, it's horrendous policing. Horrendous. You are supposed to de-escalate situations. He didn't do that. He did the opposite of it. He didn't even bother talking to this guy. Put it down, put it down. He wasn't holding a gun. If he's holding a gun, then that would be different. You don't want to rationalize with a guy who's holding a gun. Put the gun down, put the gun down. Fine, shoot. But even then, you could say if a guy doesn't point a gun at an officer, you probably shouldn't shoot. But that's a gun. That's different. We're talking about a little axe. Could it harm somebody? Could it kill somebody? Yes. Not if you're 30 feet away. The guy's not what do you call that? The axe throwers?
Well, let's play a little devil's advocate here. Are you sure in that split-second moment that officer didn't know? Is that an axe or is that a firearm that he's raising up really quick?
I'm pretty sure he knew that was not
it's
a
a very
gun.
split-second decision, though, when you think about it, right? You're 30 feet away, a guy lifts up something metal, you're already going into a situation knowing that this could be a possibly armed guy, possibly violent, possibly mentally deranged. But I think when he approached, he just said, "Drop the axe," right?
Drop the axe. So no, he knew it was an axe. So that takes that theory away. I understand what you're saying if you didn't say that. He knew it was an axe. He knew his life wasn't in jeopardy, and he decided to take somebody's life anyway. Listen, this guy was a scumbag. I'm not going to, but I go back to George Floyd for a moment. Completely different case.
Well, now I'm thinking about the Jacksonville shooting a little bit more. Maybe he needed to wait one more second to see if the motion was going to come for the arm to come back in a throwing motion.
That's different.
But do we put that on the officer? The more I'm thinking about it, do we put that on the officer to wait for that throwing motion to happen? I mean, once somebody raises it up, the only bad part about this really was how the guy's tone of voice when he goes, "Man, look, bro.
Look, dude. Yeah.
It was just it was a very peaceful tone that he was taking with the situation."
Listen, let me be very clear, though.
Dang, it was quick.
It was. Apparently, this guy was mentally deranged. With that being said, he's a career criminal. I don't feel bad for him. Very stupid. I know that people that are mentally ill, you shouldn't call them stupid. When an officer tells you to put something down, you put it down. Mentally ill or not, very stupid. He did this to himself. With that being said, I don't feel bad for him. One less career criminal on the planet, but officers cannot be judge and jury. That was a bad officer-involved shooting. That was bad policing. Any reasonable person would say that.
And I think Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, they kind of messed up on this because what you're trying to do is instill trust with the public.
Right.
And when you really get fully behind the officer's conduct in this situation, you're building distrust with the public on that ground. And so that's why, here in Vegas and what the FBI wants these law enforcement jurisdictions to do is be open and transparent. What Jacksonville is, they released the body cam.
Right.
But I love if you go on their website, the way they release the body cam, they really pause when the axe gets brought up and they zoom in and they put an arrow and they go axe. For like 3 seconds, they pause the video to show there's a deadly weapon here. When I think the right move politically to build trust with the community is to say, no, we did find wrongdoing. He violated internal policies of how we're supposed to handle these situations. We're going to look further into this, provide more training to officers on this, and we're going to use this as a learning experience because we don't want our officers to go deadly force on somebody so quickly like this situation. But what they've done here is they've kind of sanctioned it.
Explain to me why it took so long for them to release this body camera, and why did they even release it in the first place if they didn't think he did anything wrong?
Well, part of it is they had the cover of the internal machinery of doing their own internal investigation. There's a segment in every police force that investigates the officers, and the officers are on administrative leave because they're potential criminal defendants. They're investigating the officers for committing a crime there. And then there's a separate unit that comes in and investigates them for violation of internal policies. And so they can say, well, this is why it took so long. But best practices, if you're living by the gold standard of what the FBI wants our police organizations to do to make sure the community's not out there rioting in the streets over things, you do it quick. The quicker you get it out to the public, the better.
Right.
When it takes this long, this happened in April. I think it was April. So we're looking at 6-7 months before the video gets released.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. You're not building trust with the community, and that's what it's all about: transparency.
Isn't it interesting? I remember black girl was shot by a police officer. She had a teenage girl. She had a knife in her hand. You remember that case?
Mm-hmm.
Completely justified shooting. That officer probably saved lives that day. Good policing, what he did there. But isn't it interesting how within that same 24-hour period, they released the body camera footage when it's so obvious that a police officer did nothing wrong. But then when there's a possibility that officer might have done some wrongdoing, like in this case, they wait months and months before they release it.
Like I said, you delay things to let it kind of come out of the media's eye. We do that in cases that are high profile, shootings that are high profile. You let the media kind of die down and then you release the stuff, right? Yeah. Just like, that goes with anything. So we can speculate it's a nefarious motive so that they're
Right.
not getting flack, and that's why those things take longer
Yeah.
to get released.
Yeah, no question. And it's unfortunate. And, listen, I feel for this man's family, but this police officer, I'm just going to say it, he got off scot-free. Forget about even from a legal perspective. How he is still a police officer and how he is still on the streets today is mesmerizing to me. These are the issues I have with law enforcement. Yes, I am pro-police, but these are the circumstances that make certain precincts look really bad. This guy should not be a cop. He should not be on the streets. You can make the argument that he should be prosecuted for a crime. I know you don't think it rises to that level. I respect that. But at a minimum, the guy shouldn't be a cop anymore. And
Well, I also think the community down there is not going to be clamoring for criminal prosecution of this guy, because what you're looking at is, here's how it would have played out if they did things the right way and they just
Yep.
arrested this guy. The guy would have been charged with criminal trespass, which is a very minor violation. Maybe some possession. They'd search his little camp, his homeless camp right there. Maybe they'd find some drugs. Maybe they'd even find a firearm. But at best, destruction of property. He had cut the power to a residence. Look, this guy pretty much is going to be back out on the streets pretty quickly down there with what we're doing. And he's going to be out there kind of being a menace to the community.
Right.
And so that's what it comes down to, is I don't think the community's down there clamoring for it. And if we're going to, let's bring the race issue up in this, well, we're dealing with a white guy that got shot.
Right.
Okay. So this isn't this, the police are shooting black people indiscriminately. So there's not that political, element to it as well.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I get it, but like I said, I think that cop went in there. He had a little Charlie Bronson in him, and we don't necessarily want that.
He knew who this guy was. He probably had dealt with him before. That wouldn't surprise me either. He knew
If
probably.
this guy was well known in the police station,
Yeah.
of just always causing trouble.
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's probably
surprise
the
me.
situation here. But again, police officers can't be judge and jury, and this was wrong.
This isn't Judge
yeah.
Dredd.
Yeah, no question about that. Any other high-profile cases or cases that you've taken up over the course of the last month or two since you've been here that you'd want to discuss? Any interesting cases or cases that you would want to share that have happened here locally?
No, nothing. I have client confidentiality.
Oh, that's
Anybody
right.
calls me,
That's not important. Who
if you
cares
hire
about that?
me, I'm not going to be on the radio putting your business out there. Just know that. Yeah, it's attorney-client privilege on any case.
Who cares about that? That's not important. Just talk about all your clients and their personal situations. That's what I think we should do. Nothing really new on the Tillis front, right? He's obviously behind bars still, and I think there was a stay in his case. And I don't know what more defense you could have with this guy. Allegedly, from what I've heard, is that the murder is actually on video, which I clearly do not want to see. And then another high-profile case that I'll bring is this Idaho, the murder of those 4 college kids in this home, and there are no leads. It's like there's nothing. They have a picture of this car, this white sedan, I think. They have no idea who killed these 4 individuals, and it's such a bizarre story because there was no screaming or yelling, the neighbors said, and they used a knife, the perpetrator. You would think that there would be a fight. And it's just bizarre circumstances, and these 4 young individuals are dead. It's a tragedy, and police don't seem to know who did it. They have no idea.
If you ever get into the serial killer, I know people are interested in serial killers and what they do. Look, when you don't have, like in Tillis, there was all this motive. So you could kind of point the finger at who would have a reason to do this. But if a serial killer comes out and there's really no connection to their victims, and they actually are a little bit methodical and play it out a certain way, and they cover their tracks, man, there's so many unsolved murders. There's serial killers out there that, people have no idea who they are. They've been operating for decades sometimes.
But so you think that there might not have been a connection? There's a strong possibility that
I'm just saying, when you have no leads, it's because you're having trouble finding anybody that has a motive to do it, or someone who did have a motive, you're exonerating them pretty quickly through your
obviously
investigation.
People within the community are very scared. Somebody taking a knife and killing 4 college students, and the families want answers, rightfully so. It's a terrible tragedy. We're now a month out. We're also at the 10-year anniversary of Sandy Hook. And I saw some interviews yesterday on CNN with those individuals that survived, that were not killed, that were in the school during the shooting, that were little children. They're now teenagers, 16, 17, 18 years old. And it's interesting. They're all talking about that day and how it changed their life forever. It's amazing that it's been 10 years, right, since that day. But, not a lot has changed when it comes to gun control, and that's a whole nother topic to bring up. But, these shootings come and go, and it doesn't seem like things are getting much better in this country when it comes to these shootings. But it was just weird, and interesting to see. They were 7, 8 years old.
That'd be great, a subject of a documentary to follow these people 10 years later.
Wouldn't it
another
be?
10 years after that?
I was thinking about
see,
that. Yeah.
how that trauma played out in their life.
Yeah, and it's interesting hearing from them now, 17, 18 years old. I mean, I still hear from people that are, close to my age when it comes to Columbine. I'm a few years older than them, but how it transcends their life, and they have to probably talk about it every day. And it shouldn't define them, but very sad. Anyway, Thomas, good to see you back in here, man. I appreciate you coming back in
I hope
studio.
to be back a little bit more often.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to have you in here next week.
Been busy. We've been busy.
That's a good thing. When a lawyer
Business
says
is good, there's a lot of crime going on in Vegas.
Well, that's not good, but
but you guys are not guilty. In my book, you're not guilty. So
yeah,
you need someone to work these prosecutions.
Yes, and you're one of the best in the business as a DUI attorney. Give out that information before we let you go. Give out that information if people want to contact you.
Yeah, LasVegasCriminalLawyer.com, 848-5555. DUI specialist is pretty much the cases that I like to do.
Right.
Formerly DUI prosecutor here in Vegas, now on the defense side, crossed over. So.
All right. We'll give him a call. If you do get a DUI, we hope you don't, but if you do, give Thomas Moskal a call. He will take care
Christmas
of it.
holidays,
That's
they
right.
come up.
You're right. It's
Metro, NHP, they are out there in force.
You're right.
Watch out for the checkpoints.
Yes.
New Year's Eve, be careful.
That's a dangerous day to be out driving on New Year's Eve.
Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve,
Yes.
the police will be out there more often.
Those are the two most dangerous days. My mother always said, "Don't you drive on New Year's Eve, Brian. Don't you be out there. All those crazy drivers out there." My mother is actually right.
Does your mom know that that's your impression of her?
Yeah, it's spot on too, by the way. It's spot on. Anyway, Thomas, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a great holiday, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again soon, my man. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to very on this show before. Her name is Lindsay Glazer. She is actually recording a couple of her shows in Vegas. She wants you to be there, recording an album for her show. And Lindsay Glazer is going to be joining us in studio next. Also, the UNLV athletic director, Eric Harper, will be joining us in hour number 2. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years, prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, knowledge of DUI law, that work for you. Give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. We offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment and work injuries, you name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
A great time! Your entertainment destination, the South Point, invites you to experience the ultimate great time under one roof. Bowling, dancing, a live show, a movie, delicious dining, and one of South Point's 11 restaurants. So much to see, so much to do. You won't know where to start first. This week, make it a South Point week and discover for yourself why the South Point is your entertainment destination for a great time.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. That was awesome. It hasn't been feeling that. I love his new look. That guy's so smart. I'm not worried. Anyway, welcome back to the show. Coming up here at the bottom of the hour, we got UNLV Athletic Director Eric Harper, but the lovely lady we have in the studio with us right now. She's been on the show before. She has a pretty cool gig at my favorite comedy club in Vegas, which is called Wise Guys Comedy Club, which is in New York. It's a really cool spot there. Pauly Shore's a big part of the club. And she's got two shows, Friday and Saturday at 7:30 there. And you could be a part of her new album because they're actually going to be recording it for her new album. Lindsay, the very funny Lindsay Glazer, joining us in studio now. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for having me.
So I have to start off on a really bad note here.
Oh,
How do you have time to do this show when you're dating 12 different people? You just said off the air that you're dating 12 different men. How is that possible?
Brian's just making up stuff because he can't go out with me and he wants to convince himself.
That might be true.
Yeah.
That might be true.
So-
There might be some validity to that.
Also, I was a lawyer before, as Brian knows, and all my dating is NDA.
But you shared on the air last time you were here that you were dating a guy that was different, interesting, if you recall.
Yes.
And you kind of called him out a little bit. You were making fun of him a little bit on this show. Now, you didn't say his name, but you said he had some female features to him and with his personality, and he was a little strange, right? You date strange guys.
I don't date strange guys. I think
Oh.
I intimidate guys who are not in my personality sometimes.
Because you
He was
got that
shy.
East Coast bluntness to you, and that's what makes you a good comic.
That's right. I got no filter.
Yes.
It's
Well,
good for comedy, bad for life,
I-
especially dating life.
Yeah, unless you live on the East Coast. I agree with you on the West Coast. Do you feel like East Coast people, especially the comedians, right? They're very quick-witted and This is who I am. If you don't like it, go F yourself. And then people on the West Coast, and I'm generalizing here, not everybody, but a lot of people on the West Coast are like, they're phony, they're fake, Hollywood fake people, right? That's what I miss. I miss people on the East Coast.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, not just comics, but people in New York are like, this is who I am.
Right.
I might come off to you as rude, but they're actually nicer in a way because they're more honest.
Some of my favorite comedians come from back east New York. Larry David, right, being one of them. And it's interesting because the people from the Wise Guys, they introduced me to some of Sam Keniston's family members.
Oh.
And they came in studio and we were talking about Sam Keniston. The one great thing about comedy, well, there's a lot of great things about comedy, but it's like people that go to, whether they come to see your show or, whatever show it might be, you forget about your problems, similar to a concert, right? You forget about your problems and you're just entertained and you're having a good time and you're laughing. And I love it. But I am one of those people. I like to be made fun of at a show. Like, do you get people like that, jerks? They just want to be the star of the show and they want the comedian to make fun of them.
Yes, there are absolutely people who come with the intent of like disrupting or like heckling the show.
I don't do that.
Roasted.
I don't do that. No, I won't do that. But I'm going to give you a story.
Okay, let's hear
and I want you to give me your opinion since this is your expertise. The Hickory Dickory Dock guy. Why am I drawing a blank here?
Andrew Dice Clay.
How could I forget his name?
I don't know. I'm literally wearing a leather jacket.
You have that look
I'm the
today.
female version of him. By the way, his opener, Eleanor Kerrigan.
She's very funny.
One of the funniest comics out there. Brilliant and nice.
Yeah. I've seen her before. You're right. She's very, very good. Anyway, I like Andrew Dice Clay. So this was maybe 10 years ago. I don't think I've ever shared this story on the air. Maybe I have. I don't remember. But I go to see him at the Riviera. Andrew Dice Clay. Never seen him before. I'm excited. I'm with a date. Don't worry. It's nothing to do with you. Don't worry. I wouldn't offend you like that. Anyway, I'm with a date. We go to see Andrew Dice Clay. And I'm dressed up. We went to a nice dinner before, and it's Dice Clay. I got a couple free tickets, and I'm like, I'm excited. Hey, it's Andrew Dice Clay. We're sitting front row. We're like right there. We're like 5 feet away from him. So he talks to the audience, and he makes fun of people sometimes, which I love. I don't have a problem with that at all. So he asked me a question. He says, what do you think they would say if a guy like you and a guy like me walked into a club? It was just a question. So I answered him. And I said, they would say, why am I hanging out with my grandpa? So everyone started laughing. Okay, big deal. It was a joke. So I could tell he got a little angry. I wasn't being like malicious, but then I could tell he got a little upset. And then he goes, you think you're pretty effing funny, huh? Let me tell you something, buddy. I'm the best. So then I said something that maybe I shouldn't have said, but he said he was the best. And I said, if you were the best, you wouldn't be performing at the Riviera in front of 100 people. Everybody's laughing, right? I wasn't trying to be malicious. I'm just messing with him because he's messing with me. I'm not trying to be the star of the show. He's addressing me and he's asking me a question. So then he goes, and by the way, the crowd was laughing. They weren't like, oh, this guy's a jerk. I wasn't trying to be a jerk. Andrew Dice Clay goes, how much did you pay for those effing tickets? I'm not going to lie to him. I said, I got them for free. He said, good, then get the F out of my show. Now, at that time, I thought he was joking. Security guard comes up, doesn't take my date, just takes me. I said, is this a gag? I've never been kicked out of a show in my life. He's like, no, Andrew wants you to leave the show. So she's still sitting there and I can still hear the show in the back of the room. And he starts talking to her and he goes, now I finally got you all to myself. And she starts like crying and she leaves. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Did I do anything wrong there? In your opinion, you're a professional comedian. What did I do anything wrong?
No, he talked to you. And so you responded back. And, I know Dice Clay, and my guess is he did that on purpose. It helps his show to say that and kick you out. He's doing a character. He's not doing himself. That's not Andrew Dice Clay is a character. So he was writing character.
I think
you don't
right.
know that he didn't do that on purpose.
I think you're right because when it was the Hard Rock, I saw Tom Green, who I love. I love
Tom Green.
I think he's hilarious. He's a little strange, but I like him. He's hilarious.
Brilliant.
And Dice was there promoting his show, and he did 5 minutes. And then I met Dice after the show. Tom Green had done my radio show that morning, and I love Tom. He's great. I said, Dice, you threw me out of your show. And he starts laughing. And he's like, what show? I'm like, when you were at the Riviera. He's like, oh, that was when I owed a lot of money. I wasn't in a good mood. That's what he said to me. And
well, that's the other thing I was going to tell you. Anyone can have an off day. People expect you to be on all the time. Andrew Dice Clay is going down the street and recognize every single, and you have to stop and sign autographs and take pictures. And Dice is a nice guy, but you owe a lot of money. It happened to Maria Bamford too. Like she she was in the mental hospital, like, and she had to like cancel a lot of contracts. And when she came out of that, but I'm not like telling you a secret, it's public knowledge. She talks about on stage.
Right.
So when she came out of that, she's busy trying to fix her contracts. That's, you know,
I understand
do
that.
that,
And
so
not to air dirty laundry, because I like Dice.
Yeah, yeah.
I really
Dice
do.
is great,
I
yeah.
really do like him. It's not perfect. But I heard that over the years he's had a little bit of a gambling problem. And
that's not surprising. Like
right.
I don't know that
I've
about
heard-
Dice.
So
but-
what I've heard from a couple people,
Yeah.
very good sources, been in this town 20 years. I know a lot of people. And I heard that Dice owed a lot of money to
Where'd he
the
be-
Hard Rock.
where he buried the bodies.
Yeah, probably. And he was doing gigs at the Hard Rock, I heard, to pay off his markers. And that's sad because Dice is still a big name. He's still going to get a crowd. And I know he's still touring and he's very funny, but this town could do that to you if you're not careful, right?
I mean, hey, you can't live in Vegas and really not have control over whether, you know,
Of course.
you're an alcoholic, you don't want to live in Vegas.
Of course. Are there any comics that you've worked with over the years that you just don't want to work with anymore? You don't have to give names, but I'm just curious, are there people that are difficult to work with?
There's only been one, and he's a nobody, and it was very weird. And it was when I just started, and the booker had said something to me, and I sent him the tape. I go, I don't know what you're talking about. Here's the tape of the show. So young comics, record all your shows, every single one. When people try and talk like around the radio,
Now
people
I'm
try and talk
curious.
stuff.
Now I want to know who it is.
No,
Tell
now
me
I'm gonna
Pete,
tell
Pete
you.
Davidson.
It's not Pete Davidson. It's
But-
not Pete Davidson. None of the New York guys are jerks. Jerks who I've worked with. All of them are.
You ever
great.
met Larry David?
I've never met Larry
God, I
David,
love
but I
that guy.
have met Alan Zweibel, who is like his best friend. and
I
he's
love
great.
that guy too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that show, man. I love Larry David. You know, it's interesting. I never got into Seinfeld very much.
I don't like Seinfeld. I know that's
I
unpopular.
don't like Jerry Seinfeld. I don't find him very funny.
Really? Oh, I think Jerry's funny.
Is he?
He's brilliant.
He's PG-13. I don't know.
He's brilliant.
Why do
He's
you
very
put your
funny.
garbage in the garage? Like,
But everyone in the 90s was doing that kind of comedy, you
Right.
know. I posted something on my Facebook the other day around, I wonder if those hack comics from the 90s ever found out what the deal with things
Yeah.
were. But that was a style of comedy then.
Right. So you got this. You got these two gigs at
Wise
Wise
Guys
Guys,
Comedy
and you're
Club.
recording this album. So explain to me how this works. Is it edited where you'll take maybe some stuff from Friday and maybe some stuff from Saturday? Like, how does that work? You record both shows, right?
So I'm lucky enough that Comedy Dynamics is my label, like the way a singer has a label. It's my 1st
Mhm.
label. They record both shows, and then you leave space and you can edit it absolutely for it. It's live. And the
Right.
idea is most people only get one show. So I'm very grateful to both Wise
Sure.
Guys and Comedy Dynamics to giving me that because things can happen.
Sure.
Some jerk like you could be there and yell
Exactly.
during the recording.
Exactly.
You know,
No, I would never do that.
he's
but-
like, I would never do that. but maybe."
No, I don't want to do that. I will never address a comedian unless they ask me a question.
That's
I
right.
will never open up my mouth. I will just laugh, and I love it. And I saw Pauly Shore, by the way, at Wise Guys, and it was a pretty good show because it wasn't
That was
necessarily.
last weekend, right?
No, I saw him a few months back where he did a show talking about his life.
Oh, yeah, the one man show.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. And unfortunately, the end of the show was kind of really sad. I mean, it painted the picture of Pauly Shore. He lost all of his family members in the last couple of years, and he's alone. He's not married. He doesn't have kids. It was a little sad. I've never, I felt bad for him. I really did.
Here's what you got to give it to Paul. By the way, Paulie doesn't just have a lot to do with Wise Guys. He owns part of
Right.
the Wise Guys.
Right.
You got to give it to Paulie for a guy who's like very famous. When you see him on the YouTube and his shows, he's
Yeah.
very honest about what it was like being famous,
Yes,
what
he
it's like
is.
not being as famous now, like and everything about it.
I love Pauly. I just wish he would give us a little bit more on those years at the Playboy Mansion. That's all. But no, I love Pauly
He's
Shore.
sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, right. But the people that he's met over the years, the legends, the Richard Pryors, and the people that he was around,
Sam
isn't it?
Kinison.
Sam Kennison's another one, isn't it?
By the way, you know that I'm from Peoria, Illinois, where Sam Kinison lived.
Right.
and Most of his, he lived in East Peoria.
Yeah, and I talked to his family members about the accident he was in, his last words, and it's like he knew he was gone, and he was like, "Okay, it's just my time. I'm going to go now." I mean, that's basically how he went. It's scary. Is it fair to say that a lot of really, really successful comedians, they all have some sort of mental illness?
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's not just comedians, musicians, anyone in entertainment. Like
Right.
that's the way most of us deal with trauma. So you make it humorous, right? That's the
Those are some of the
equation.
best comics, right? It's
Robin
kinda-
Williams.
Robin Williams was the best. And isn't it kind of like, in a sense, sometimes with musicians when they were drugged up and had their issues, some of the best albums of all time? I'm not saying you have to be a druggie to be a musician, and I'm not saying you have to have mental illness to be a successful comedian, but it does seem like a lot of them are, right?
Well, yeah, it draws a lot of people in. There's a
Yeah.
lot of drugs in comedy and musician. I mean, it's like kind of like a chicken and the egg question.
Right. What do you make of, I don't think I ever asked you this, because Bob Saget was always one of my favorites, the late Bob Saget. I hate saying that. I've interviewed him so many times. He's such a funny guy. What a weird circumstance with his death. I mean, what the hell? What do you think happened there?
I don't know. It's hard to tell because the thing is, anyone can die of a heart thing or a clot. I mean, Ben Glebe, who works with Steve Hofstetter, he had COVID, wasn't going to go to the doctor, and his girlfriend pushed him to go to the doctor. And he was so lucky he had a clot in his leg. He could have died.
Oh my
He
goodness, I didn't know
only-
that.
Yeah, he only went because his girlfriend like pushed him to go.
Gosh, I didn't know that.
And it was from COVID.
That's horrible. You could have a clot because of COVID. That's unbelievable. I love Steve Hofstetter, by the way. He's
Yeah, I
one
know.
of the
He
best.
says you're
He
his
comes on.
buddy.
Yeah, he comes on the show all the time. Brilliant. The guy's got like 1 billion views on social media, and such a great comic. That's a big part of this too, because during COVID, when people like you and a lot of comics couldn't perform live, a lot of people went to social media and put up videos and made money doing that. It's interesting during that time period how people learned how to do certain things on social media, right?
I know. I wasted that time. I'm terrible at videos and stuff, but I was on Steve Hofstetter's show during that time with
Oh, that's
actually
cool.
Mary Lynn Raskup, who's hilarious.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Who are some of like I'm curious, favorite female comics?
I love Maria Bamford.
Mhm.
I love Eliza. I like Whitney and Amy. I'm trying to think of like female comics who you wouldn't know. Well, just because they're older, they've been
I
around.
like Sarah Silverman.
Sarah's great. Carrie.
I've always
Louise
had a crush on
Cotter.
her.
Sarah's fantastic. Carrie Louise. Nikki,
Lisa, how about Lisa
Nikki.
Lampanelli? What do you make of her?
Lisa hasn't done comedy in a long time.
Why?
But when she's like a life coach now, for real.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But when I started, I used to get that I was like a skinny Lisa Lampanelli or Roseanne Barr, or from Curb, a less Jewy Susie Essman. I've heard
Susie.
that about.
I met Susie and she
You
was so
did?
nice.
Oh.
So Susie opened up for Richard Lewis, who I also
great.
love. As much as I love Richard Lewis, I got to say, I think Susie's stand-up was better.
Really?
She was phenomenal. But, she's not the Susie's not the one you see in Curb where she's just going to swear at you. And she's actually a very nice lady. And her comedy's not dirty either,
It's
by
called
the way.
acting.
Yeah. But she's so great in the show. Her comedy's very PG-13 too. I will say this though. I prefer dirtiness. That's why I loved Bob Saget. I just felt like here's this America's Funniest Home Video guy. And he just says the crudest things. I remember I watched him for the first time. I was 18 years old and I got into Dangerfields in LA, a trip to LA with my buddy. And he's on stage and he follows a woman into the bathroom with a microphone, and it wasn't staged or anything. It was just spontaneous. He just did crazy things. And gosh, I love that about him. I love that where you see a show and you never know what you're going to get. Obviously, you have a show planned in your mind and you know the type of material you're going to do. But like Ian Bagg is one of my favorites too.
Ian Bagg is great. I
Yeah.
once saw him do at Laugh Factory, just an entire set of crowd work about two guys, what's it called, crossing swords in the bathroom. Like just an entire
Yeah.
hour set that was clearly improvised.
Was there like
Dana Carvey. same
Oh,
thing.
Dana's great. I remember I had Dana Carvey on the show a few years ago when I did the Vegas take. And I know Dana did a Barack Obama impersonation and he did a George W. Bush. So I said, can you have a conversation with Barack Obama and George W. Bush about race? And on the fly, he just did it. And it was unbelievably genius. And I kept that. The guy is so phenomenal with his impersonations.
Dana's probably one of my favorite comics. And before I was a comic, I used to come see his show here in Las
Yeah.
Vegas with my grandfather, my dad, and we would see him 3-4 times, and
Right.
each show was different. He's brilliant.
Do you still get like nervous minutes before a show?
I mean, not really. I mean, I'm nervous about the recording because there's a lot of sound tech and things to handle like that. I don't get nervous about it. I mean, it's just another set. The best way to look at anything is it's just another set.
And I know that you're confident in your material and it's going to kill and people are going to laugh. But I would imagine you've had shows where what do you do when you're just not getting the response that you're used to getting? And maybe it's just a crowd. They're a bunch of idiots and they don't have a sense of humor. But like, what do you do in that situation? You just continue and go on, or like, what do you do?
Depends, right? So you can pivot or you can just accept it. There's a comic whose name is Ricky Reyes. He's one of the funniest comics out there who's not famous. He used to say, your job is to sell pizza. And sometimes the audience wants nails. You're supposed to still sell pizza even if they want nails. So it depends on like how committed you are to what you're selling. But what
That's
I do,
interesting.
if the audience isn't on board, then I go, oh, this is a crowd work audience. Then you do crowd work, or this audience, you bump off and see where they are. There's some things that happen where you go, this is my A material. This always kills. This always gets applause. And then sometimes it doesn't. You go, oh, they need this. And it's a game time decision.
Have you ever had a situation where somebody was offended at your show? Like you could tell that they were upset? Like,
Yeah.
What happens there? Like, give me an example.
I can't think of an example, but some people say, oh, there is one bit in there where someone got mad at me. I tell this story and you'll hear it if you come to my album about being in a wheelchair and being high. And and sort of I'm gonna and I tell someone that, and they said that's like stolen valor, and stolen valor is saying when you're in the military when you're not. And someone got mad at me for that. She goes, I was on board with you, you were really funny except for that story. I'm like, hey lady, my job is to tell you the truth, and about like all comics jobs is to be like, you know what, audience, you're screwed up, but you're not as screwed up as I am.
Right.
Here we are all feeling screwed up humanity together.
Yeah, well, that would be debatable with me, but
Yeah,
you know, I
it's
don't
true. You're more screwed, but yeah, I mean, you're radio DJ right in there with mental health and
Right,
drugs.
right.
You know, you get up at 5 a.m., you got to stay till 1 a.m. You
That's
guys
true.
doing press junkets?
I don't
Lots
do
of
drugs.
cocaine?
I don't do drugs, believe it or not.
I don't believe it.
So I was with a friend. I really don't. I was with a friend
That's what they all say.
a couple of years ago. No, I swear to you. I was with a friend a couple of years ago, and I did some of those edibles, gummy bear. I had one gummy bear, and I thought I was going to die. And I said to my friend, I told her to call 911. She's like, no, we're not calling 911. Just lie down and close your eyes, which helped me. But like,
So she babysat you.
yeah, I was, you know, how embarrassing I was freaking out. My heart was going. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And like I said, that's it. I'm never having an edible ever again. I felt like it was going to kill me.
He had one yesterday.
I did not. I probably should have, but I didn't. Like, I don't know. I never got into like drugs. Like I did marijuana maybe a couple times in my life. Okay, I'll be honest. When I was engaged, my ex-fiance talked me into doing half of an ecstasy pill. I did it, and it just made me shut up. So maybe I should take ecstasy every day. I don't know.
Mark would like that.
Yeah, no, it just made me shut up. Really, I was just quiet. I was just listening to her, and it made me quiet.
She was like, I need you to be quiet. She's like, men will never be quiet. I'm going to give
Yeah.
him an edible so he shuts
Yeah.
up. For
You
a while.
ever do cocaine? Be honest.
Nope.
Never. Any hard drugs?
No, not hard. I've done marijuana.
That's
and
it.
I did like a 2 milligram edible.
I'm very
once.
disappointed in you.
I know.
You're
I'm
a comic. You're
boring.
telling me you have all
I'm
these issues,
boring.
and you never did drugs. You like to drink, though.
I do like to drink.
How
Also,
often-
you remember I have a law license, right?
Yeah, that's okay. How many days a week do you get drunk? Be honest.
Drunk? I don't get drunk very often, but I mean, I drink probably a lot because in comedy, that's part of how you network.
The last time you did something that you regretted because you were intoxicated, when was that?
Last week on Thursday,
Really?
I got on the Link High Roller, which I knew I wouldn't be able to.
Did you
get-
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, but I knew I wouldn't get
Do
on.
you
when I
remember
drank,
the
'cause it
story?
broke. Yeah.
Remember the story of the high roller where the guy was having sex with a woman on there, and he got arrested, and then a week later he was killed and murdered?
No.
Yeah, that's a you. I don't know if I remember that one. Yeah, you Google it. It's a pretty crazy story.
I remember that the link broke down last year and the people were crawling out of or 2 years ago and people were
sounds
crawling out of the thing. And so I was like, I'm not going to, but I need to promote the show. So I was
Can
like,
you
where's the
imagine
best
if you're
place?
stuck on there?
Yeah.
Like,
I
what
mean,
if-
at least it's not like
I'm
it's
claustrophobic.
cards.
That would
Me
be
too.
horrible.
But at least it's a card. It's not.
You're
like a demo of
claustrophobic too.
people.
I didn't know
Mhm.
that. Like, so, like, I need an aisle seat on a plane.
Me too.
You too.
Yep.
People get annoyed with me. Like, I freak out. My hell is like a minute or two when I'm walking on the plane and there's nowhere I can go. I hate that. I don't like big crowds. I don't like elevators either.
Yeah.
My fear is getting stuck in an elevator with a bunch of idiots. That's
Well, I use the stairs at every single hotel for that reason. Even when I stay at the Lex on 48th in New York and I am on the 23rd floor, I
Wait,
still
so
walk the stairs.
so you have it so bad you can't even go in an elevator?
No, I can go in an elevator, but I just don't because I want the exercise. And
Oh,
also,
okay,
COVID
okay. I
is
got you.
passed the most in an elevator
I understand that. Okay, well, that makes sense to me. If you're just joining us, we are speaking with Lindsay Glazer,
about cocaine and dating and the
dating
toy
and
roller.
cocaine. Yes, and the fact that she actually has a show, a couple shows actually, Friday and Saturday. Wise Guys Comedy Club in the Art District at 7:30 p.m. I believe tickets are still available, right? How do you get tickets?
I believe so. They are still available. It's wiseguys. LasVegas.wiseguys.com. And we are
Mm-hmm.
getting very close. Like last night, Cassie, the manager, was like, Lindsay, when you come in tonight at the open mic, I do some rehearsal. She's like, we need to talk about your numbers because we don't, it's a very good problem to have. But last time we were very close to right at capacity, the fire marshal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That happened. I was at I don't know if you've ever been to this, it's like a jazz club called the Barbershop. It's at
Mm-mm.
the Cosmopolitan. Really cool little club. And a friend of mine was a guitar player in this band, and he put me on the guest list. And I guess he put way too many people on the guest list, and they were absolutely at capacity, and they were very angry at him. But sometimes that does happen from time to time. But that's a good thing. You want as many
Yeah.
people as possible, right?
Listen, if that happens, I'll just kick out the comics who didn't have to pay.
That would actually be very funny. Are there other people that are going to be performing?
There are 2 other people on the show. Nat Baymal, who has three albums out.
Oh, wow.
He's opening for
Mhm.
me, and he's coming in from LA to do it. And Joe Calise, who's actually he is a local comic, very, very funny. Both these guys are some of the funniest I've ever met. I will tell you that Nat at his last album was invoking Carlin. He really was.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. And you mentioned Steve Hofstad. I love the fact at the end of the show he takes questions from the audience. You could ask him anything you want. I saw him at Wise Guys Comedy Club, and I asked him.
I was at that show, by the way, before we met.
Oh, really? I didn't
Mhm.
know that. I asked him, what would you do if Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert were sitting front row? And that was like the best question for him because he went on and on about it. And the crowd was like, oh, and they thought like I was like a fan of Marjorie. And it's not. I'm not. I asked him that
Clearly
question.
not.
No, because I know that Hofstadter has very similar political opinions that I have. And I love the way it's amazing though. He's an influencer on social media because like, I remember he put out a video about Madison Cawthorn. Speaking of wheelchairs, he was the guy that was in the wheelchair that's no longer in office. And he was in a very tight race. And a lot of people believe, as do I, that a video that has like 10 million views that he put out about Madison Cawthorn and his lies affected that election. It's
Probably.
incredible, isn't it?
I mean, people do look to Steve for some political opinions, which is
Yes.
which is a very interesting power to have in today's world.
You ever touch politics in your show? Ever?
Not really. Like not at all. I just don't find it that interesting. And I find it so depressing at this point that it's not even like,
Would you do what
relevant.
Stormy Daniels did? Would you accept $120,000 to have sexual relations with Donald Trump?
not 120, more like
What's
a
your
couple
price?
million. Like, I don't know, 600 million.
You're being honest.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Backtrack here.
Sexual relationship.
You're
I mean, we're
telling
on the
me-
radio,
Who
right?
cares?
I just want to know what I can say.
Well, you're telling me that if Donald Trump today approached you privately and nobody would know about this, and he said, I'm going to write you a $500,000 check.
600 million, I said.
I know that, but I'm asking you, that's your price. But I'm asking, if he offered you a $500,000, even $1 million for 15 minutes of fun with you, you're telling me you wouldn't do it?
No.
I would do it.
Well, you
$1
probably
million,
get,
I
you
would
probably
do
get
it.
herpes.
As long as he wears protection. No, I'm being serious with you. I'm not
Even if-
joking
I know,
around
but
with
if
you.
he even wears a condom, you might still get
If
herpes.
Donald Trump I can't believe I'm saying this on the radio. If Donald Trump offered me enough money so that would last me the rest of my life, I would consider letting him do whatever he wanted.
Well, we
with
have
me.
his phone number. Let's text him.
That's true. I do have a cell phone number. That's true. That is true.
I
do
know.
I do
You
have
gave
his
it to
number.
me.
Yeah, that's true.
Remember that Donald
did you
Trump
try
was my
calling
dad?
it?
Yeah, I texted it.
Did you get a response?
Mhm.
You really got a response?
Mhm. He knows who I am. Remember, you know my dad from the 90s, $90,000.
Donald Trump did text
Yeah,
you back.
yeah.
That is true. I did give her Donald Trump's cell phone number. That is hilarious.
I know you're gonna hear about it not on this album, but the second one.
You never told me that. You didn't tell me that he got back. to you.
Listen, Brian, I can't help that you don't keep up on the current trends. I have been since the last time I saw you when we went to Mike Hammer's show. I have literally had 17 appointments or been out of town since right now. I have never been so busy in my
So
life.
you're having a casual conversation with the former president of the United States.
Yeah. Things happen to me.
So maybe you'll do something for free then. Maybe he won't have to offer you any money.
Oh no, I'm no Monica. By the way, Monica Lewinsky is a very, very funny.
You're no Monica. That's funny.
She's very funny. Have you seen like what she does with like the jokes and the self-deprecate? She's actually pretty funny.
She will always be known for having some relations with Bill Clinton. I did not have
Yeah,
sexual.
I know. It's like I feel bad for her because she was just a young
Oh,
girl, and
Clinton's a jerk. He's a jerk.
every single president had an
Of
apartment
course.
with a mistress.
Of course. Well, Bill
No,
Clinton's a jerk.
all of them are jerks. You
He
don't
ruined her life.
forget
Yep.
Democrats or Republicans. Was kind of Linda Tripp who ruined her life. But
Linda Tripp too. Yeah.
But Democrats or Republicans, if once you get to that high of office, both of them have blood on their hands. Both of them.
That is true. I don't think Barack Obama has a side piece. He seems to be a pretty loyal husband.
That's probably true. But
I don't think Joe Biden has a side piece either.
only because he can't get one and she might fall down the stairs.
I mean, that might be true, but I think Joe Biden's pretty loyal to his wife. I think Barack Obama's pretty loyal. Bill Clinton was obviously not. I think George W. Bush, to be fair, Republican, pretty. I think he was pretty
You were
honest
talking
with his
about
wife.
Dana Carvey. There was a
Yeah.
story about Dana Carvey going to the
Yes.
White House when George Sr. was in office, and George Sr. said, "Hey, can you do an impression of me and call in the security guards?" And Dana Carvey did it, and the security guards came in, and he said, "George Sr." I remember Dana saying George Sr. had the best sense of humor. He just laughed. They laughed their butts off
Right.
because no one could tell. Dana's so good at impressions.
Dana Carvey's the best, but I'll tell you something. You are extremely talented, very funny. I hope we can get as many people as possible out to Wise Guys Comedy Club. Again, that's Friday and Saturday at 7:30. There are a few tickets remaining. Give them a call at Wise Guys. Get your tickets. I promise you won't be disappointed because Lindsay is extremely funny and blunt, and I love that sort of humor. And I appreciate you being here. I love the jacket you're wearing. By the way, thanks for dressing up for me.
You're
today. I
welcome.
appreciate
And
it.
Glazer Comedy on Instagram, Lindsay Glazer on Twitter, Lindsay Glazer Comedy on Facebook. Please come out. We'd love to have you. If you come out, you're going to be part of that album. Like it's going to be your laughter on Sirius and iTunes and everything afterwards. And that's a great holiday experience for all of us.
If people are going to come out, maybe we should invite Mike Pence. I'm sorry. That was a
We should.
horrible, horrible joke.
Do you know I was
I'm
at
not a
the-
professional comedian. I'm sorry.
Do you know that I was at the Hamilton show where Mike Pence showed up? I was
did
sitting
not.
behind him.
Did he come? He didn't come out. No.
Yeah, he didn't come out there until the last second. But I was like, why? It was a sold out show, and I was like, why is the seat empty in front of me? And the security guards walked him in.
Mike Pence, what a stiff. Anyway, you don't want
Literally.
him. You don't. Yeah, you don't want him at your show.
Well, I would accept 500,000 from him.
You would.
Yeah.
Well, he's not a bad looking
Yeah.
guy. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for your honesty. Anyway, Lindsay Glazer, everybody. Always loved having her in studio. Lindsay, we want you back soon. Look forward to your shows this weekend at Wise Guys Comedy Club. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, UNLV Athletic Director Eric Harper will be joining us next, Pushing Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Saloon's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. Located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Greenwood Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Saloon's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Monson. He was Las Vegas' top DUI prosecutor for years, prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Monson representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site X-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices. Office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554. Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Monson. He was Las Vegas' top DUI prosecutor for years, prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Monson representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
Best of Las Vegas winners each of the last 2 years. Glazed Donuts is a family business. Taste the passion and quality in each delectable handmade donut. Experience amazing fresh donuts at Glazed Donuts, located at 6545 South Fort Apache Road on the southwest corner of Sunset. Glaze is open every day from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you're interested in large orders, please call them at 702-246-2888. Follow Glaze on Facebook and Instagram, where they're showing off all their delicious treats. And check them out at glazedonutslv.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. So glad that you can join us. This is really an exciting time to be a UNLV fan. Well, for starters, the women's basketball program doing very well under Coach Locke. He's done a phenomenal job. And how about UNLV men? Yeah, they started the season 10-0. Kevin Kruger doing a phenomenal job. I was just talking to his father, Lon, the legend himself, and UNLV Hoops in action on Saturday. And oh yeah, UNLV football has a new head football coach, and that is Barry Odom. So what better person to talk about that than UNLV's athletic director, who's made some of these very difficult, but I believe the right decisions, and Eric Harper. Mr. Harper, thank you so much for joining us, sir. How are you?
I'm good, Brian. How are you doing?
Doing good. I appreciate you taking the time joining us. Let's start with UNLV football, if that's okay. Before we move to the future, just a couple questions about the past. I remember, Eric, you came on my show at the beginning of the football season, and you answered my question very honestly. I asked you, what looks like a successful season? And you said, well, we got to improve. We got to show improvement from start to the end of the year. Fair to say, losing 6 of your last 7 games, not really improvement, right? Is that fair to say?
Yes, that would be fair to say.
Yeah. And, I want to ask you this question and get this out of the way, and then I want to move forward to this new coach. I know you've always said that you've had a good relationship with Marcus Arroyo. I've heard from a lot of people that say that was not the case with them, that he kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. I guess my question to you is this. Did you ever hear of that from anybody? And was that in any part of your decision-making?
No, that has nothing to do. I didn't hear people, they don't come up to me and tell me that, hey, I got a bad relationship with this or that. It doesn't matter to me. Most importantly, it's about, as an athletic director, it's about my relationship with the coaches. And that's, at the end of the day, I'm the one that's either blamed for the decision or credited for the decision.
Well, yeah.
So it's more about the totality of the program that is important.
Was this a decision that you made after the Hawaii game, or was it kind of the final straw after the Nevada game when they really struggled to win that game against a bad football team?
Well, as I always say, I evaluate our coaches, year round, and it has nothing to do with just a stretch within a season. It's the totality of what they do in leading the programs that they're entrusted to lead, and it has nothing to do with just one particular moment or a moment in time, I guess I should say.
Right. Understood.
It's the totality.
Understood. So I believe you made the right decision, but I applaud you for making the decision because, as you know, there's always going to be people that are going to disagree, right, Eric? There's always going to be people that are going to criticize. That's part of being an athletic director, right? Not everybody's going to agree. But you made a difficult decision, and you've said that on the record, right? This was a difficult decision. This wasn't an easy decision. I believe it was 100% the right decision, and you had to have known that going into this, that there were going to be people that were going to disagree with you, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you show me one person that's ever made a decision that everybody agreed with, and I'll show you somebody that is absolutely a chameleon, because that it doesn't work that way. Life isn't. It doesn't matter what profession you're in. Life, it's not that way. You're going to have some that respect and think your decision is right. You're going to have some that absolutely hate it, and that's fine. Yeah. That's what I signed up for. I know that. I've been in this profession for 31 plus years. So I understand there's going to be people that always have a target on the people that are making decisions. It is what it is. I move on and enjoy my life with my family and my friends and try to do the best I can for UNLV.
And like I've always said, what makes a really good athletic director is understanding that there's going to be people that are going to disagree with your decision, but are you willing to make a difficult decision? Are you willing to do that instead of making the safe decision? And clearly you were willing to make a difficult decision, but what I believe is the right one, and I think it'll pay dividends. All right, moving forward now, Eric. Let's move forward to Barry Odom. My understanding, and I think Barry alluded to this in the press conference, that he actually reached out to you. What was that first conversation like with him, if you don't mind sharing that with us?
It was a good conversation. Of course, when you have someone of Barry's caliber and the respect that he has in college football, you're going to listen. You're going to hear what he has to say. And Barry had his message was consistent the first time I talked to him, as well as it was the second time and the third time and the fourth time that I talked with him. Yeah. His message was consistent, and that says a lot about him and his growth from his first head coaching position at the University of Missouri to now. It just shows that he's He's a young man that is committed to understanding his process, but also committed to understanding there are different ways to do things at times, and whatever is best for the personnel that you have, and whatever is best for the staff that you have. That's the adaptability of a great leader, is someone that has the ability to adapt when things aren't going the way they hope they are. They wanted them to, but at the same time can make that decision and accept humility and be humble enough to make the adjustments.
Eric, you know what it's like to win at the Division I college football level, certainly as a player and now as the athletic director. So let me ask you this. In my personal opinion, UNLV football has lacked an identity for a long time. I think of UNLV basketball, obviously right now it's their defense, right, with the men's team. And you brought in a guy that is a defensive-minded coach, right? This is a guy, from what I've heard from everybody around him that has worked with him, defense first, right? Be physical. Is that something that you were looking for, that UNLV needs an identity? Is that fair to say?
Brian, I went into it open eyes, open mind, open heart, to find what I felt like would be the best person for UNLV at this time, and that is, it just so happens it's a defensive coach, and obviously Coach Arroyo was an offensive coach, so you just go into it looking for the absolute best possible person, and also at the same time, when if it's an offensive coach, talk to me about your philosophy as it relates to what type of defensive staff are you going to hire, and vice versa. I asked Barry, what are you planning to do offensively? What is it that gives you fits as a defensive coach? And the majority of successful head coaches that it's either on one side of the ball or the other side of the ball, they want an opposite. Someone running the offense or running the defense, they want them to have that innate ability to be just a thorn in the side of everybody that we play against. And most importantly, what is it most difficult for a defensive coordinator? He wants his offensive coordinator to be that person, because in practice, you get game results by what happens in practice. And when you can cover the difficult things that happen in practice, you can also cover them in the game, because it becomes second nature and you can play fast.
If you're just joining us, he is UNLV Athletic Director Eric Harper. We're talking UNLV football and the hire of new head coach Barry Odom. So, Coach, what I have heard is that Coach Odom has already gone to a number of local high schools here in Las Vegas, and not to go backwards and talk about Arroyo, but one criticism was he really wasn't reaching out to a lot of local high school coaches. Now, I know you've said, and you even said in the press conference, you're not going to tell a coach how to recruit. You're not going to tell a coach what to do. But with that being said, Eric, that has to put a smile on your face, right? To know that Odom, in his first week on the job, has already made connections with local high school coaches. I think that's great. That's just my opinion. I would imagine you would probably agree with that.
Yeah, that's extremely important, Brian. It doesn't matter what community you're in as a head coach. You have to spend your time, a good deal of your time reaching out to the local, and in this particular case, Las Vegas has a very good high school football program and high school athletics and as a whole, not just football. And I think, Barry being out and getting out very early on in his tenure as our head coach, I think it's been well received. It's been special. And I unfortunately, I do look at Twitter every now and then, and I saw someone posted, well, we'll see if he keeps it up. Well, I can promise you this, he will keep it up.
I believe that, Eric. I think he's going to be much better when it comes to reaching out to people within the community. He seems like a very likable guy. A lot of people, I've never heard anybody say anything negative about him. I haven't, from people that I've talked to that know him. I think that's really important. I think he made a good hire, and I think it's going to pay dividends for the football program down the road. Let's talk about some UNLV hoops now, and you have to be really, really happy, as I am, for Kevin Kruger, who's a great guy, easy guy to root for, great family. They're off to a 10-0 start for the first time since the Jerry Tarkanian days. I would imagine you're very proud of what Kevin has been able to do with the program.
Absolutely proud of what Kevin has been able to do. Even last year, I was proud of what he did as a first-year head coach. But he's taken it to another level thus far here in this season. And the level of defense that they play and the tenacity that they play with, and the connectiveness. If you watch their defense, you see that every bit of that defense is connected from one player to the next, to the next, to the next, and then to the bench for that matter. So Kevin is doing an exceptional job of coaching, eight new players, basically. 8-9 new players. I mean, it's really phenomenal what he's doing, and very proud of what he's doing, and look forward to watching him again on Saturday.
How important is it and how great is it to have a guy like Lon Kruger still around the program, going to practices, going to games? I mean, it's like a level of comfort to some people to see a guy who turned the UNLV program around years ago, got him to the Sweet 16, and now his son seems like he's headed in that direction. It must be nice to have that relationship with Lon and see him around the program again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, Lon and I, we share an alma mater in Kansas State, so I've known Lon as a coach for many years, and to have him around practice and games, and it gives Kevin another set of eyes.
Yeah,
because when you go home at night or after a practice or after a game, or whether Lon's been in person or where he watched it on TV, Kevin's gonna get a critique from one of the best that ever coached in the business. So that's invaluable consulting per se, without having to pay the consultant.
Yeah. I want to share this story with you, Eric, and you've probably heard this. I was recently at a UNLV basketball practice, and after the practice, every single one of the players came up to me, shook my hand, and said, "Thank you so much for being here." With all due respect to prior coaches, we haven't had that here in a while. And I looked at my friend and I said, that's Kevin Kruger. That's Kevin Kruger. Yeah, you got to have the right type of kids. I get that. But that's Kevin instilling that in the kids. I just thought it was so respectful, and it's a testament to Kevin. What do you make of that? Because there are other members of the media that have told me similar stories, and I just think that's so awesome.
What I see there is what we absolutely have to do as leaders in our department. And that is, we're also helping and mentoring these young men and young women for life after sport. There is a point in time where the ability to compete at a high level goes away. So you have to have that next level of engagement, so that when you're done with your sport, that you already understand how to operate and how to work and how to build a network and how to network in any whatever profession it may be. But that's a testament to Kevin and his staff to instill that in our student athletes at the Running Rebel program, to understand that there's life after sport, and we have to treat and respect everyone, whether it be practice or whether it be game,
Mm-hmm.
so that if once a person is respected and treated with respect, they're going to root for you. They're going to show up at your games. You're going to build a network, and that day when it's time for you to go into the real world, you got an opportunity to get a job.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. I think one of the toughest parts of being an athletic director is making sure that you get butts in the seats. As I've said all along, UNLV basketball, especially now, is a good product. I was a little bit disappointed, even though the game was at MGM Grand, and that was a nice win against a pretty good Washington State team. I was a little bit disappointed in the attendance, and I understand it wasn't at the Thomas and Mack. What, if anything, can you do to help put more people in the seats? Because this is a good product. These kids deserve a better crowd, and I'm not blaming you. That's not your fault. I just think more people within the community, and even the students there, they need to come out, and we need to see it like it was in the days. I'm not going to go back to Jerry Tarkanian. Let's go back to Dave Rice. Let's go back to Lon Kruger. What can be done to help get more people in the seats?
Well, outside of closing down every other arena on our game days, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But, I think, Brian, at the end of the day, people love to be engaged with winners. And since I've been here 11 years now, people talk about, Las Vegas loves a winner. Well, Manhattan, Kansas loves a winner. Norman, Oklahoma loves a winner. Every city wants a winner. And the more you win, the more people are going to come out. But at the same time, exactly what you said, these young men that are playing as hard as they're playing deserve people to show up and come watch them play. Come see it for your own eyes. And you will come back again. I guarantee you, if you show it once, you'll come back again. The toughest thing on the Strip is it's the Strip, and some people don't like to go down there. And I get it and I understand it. But, we have the rodeo here, so we have to play somewhere in town, and that just happened to be a deal there. but also we don't control all of those tickets either. So
Right.
it's the individual. Those tickets were $220 a pop, and those were controlled by the promoter with BD Global. So we only had so many at our disposal, and we sold the ones that we had. We put it out there where they could get more if people wanted to get more, but also at the same time, as long as we continue to do what we're doing on the court, people are going to show up. We're north of 6,500 tickets out for Saturday, despite the bowl game going on Saturday. There's other things going on Saturday as well, and also the Raiders game the next day. So I think people are going to show up. Unfortunately, a lot of students are gone right now, but we do have a number of student tickets requested for Saturday, which is great.
And by the way, I watched San Francisco play. It's where I was sitting with Lon Kruger and talking with him. They just played in Vegas over the weekend. They're a pretty good basketball team. So this is going to be a big game for UNLV on Saturday. We want to get as many people as out to this game. So I want to ask you this question. I don't even know I've been paying attention to this story, but since you are an athletic director, your thoughts on this. I mean, Chris Beard was the UNLV head coach for a week. Now, obviously, he didn't want to be here, and I know you had nothing to do with that. I get it. What do you make, if anything? Like, what is your response as an athletic director, even though you're not at Texas, to this very, very troubling story with Chris Beard?
Really, it's troubling. I obviously no one knows all the details but those that were in that house. So I'll leave it at that. But you never want to see that happen to anyone. In particular, the young lady. Domestic violence is something throughout our country right now that is very different than what it was years ago when there wasn't social media and so forth. But at the end of the day, it is absolutely something that cannot happen.
Agree. Well, Eric, I'll say this in closing. I think you're doing a great job. Not that anybody cares what I think, but you're doing you really are.
I care. I appreciate that.
No, listen, you made a difficult decision, and I believe it was the right decision, and I applaud you for that. As I've said on the air since you made this hire, I think what you have done is this is the changing of the guard, moving in the right direction for the UNLV football program, and I applaud you for doing so, and I hope you keep up the great work, my friend. I support what you're doing, and I appreciate you coming on as always, Eric. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks a lot, Brian. Have a great
Appreciate
holiday.
it. Thank you. You too. That's Eric Harper. I mean that genuinely too. UNLV athletic director. I think Eric's doing a great job. I really do. Listen, I was very critical of Desiree Reed-Francois. I think she made some bad hires. I don't think Kevin was one of them. I think Kevin Kruger is turning out to be a very good hire. TJ Otzelberger never wanted to be here at UNLV. Otzelberger did not want to be here. Part of being an athletic director, is hiring people that want to be here. I think Barry Odom wants to be here. Kevin Kruger definitely wants to be here. Coach LaRock wants to be here. So, listen, there are naysayers out there that are going to say Odom. And by the way, Barry Odom is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. Really looking forward to having a conversation with him, my first conversation with him. Part of being an athletic director is making difficult decisions, even though they might not be popular. Tina Kunzer-Murphy fired Dave Rice midseason. That was a very bad decision. I think they should have fired him a year before, but you can't fire a college coach in the middle of the year unless they do something horribly wrong, right? You can't do that. It's stupid. That was a bad decision. Should have kept Todd Simon. That was also another bad decision. You shouldn't have hired Marvin Menzies, even though that was their 8th or 9th pick. Marvin Menzies he's not a good head coach. I'm sorry, he's just not. TJ Otzelberger never wanted to be here. Probably should have kept Tony Sanchez for another year, if for anything. They were winning 4 or 5 games, but more importantly, when it comes to Tony Sanchez, they got these great facilities. And I like Tony. He's a good guy. He was out in the community. You can't bag on him for that. Arroyo was a bad hire. I don't care what anybody says. Desiree Reed-Francois had a personal relationship, maybe a little closer of a personal relationship than some people think, with Marcus Arroyo back in the day at San Jose State. She hired him because of her personal relationship with him. He was the wrong guy for the job. I don't think he's ever going to be a good head coach. Zero personality, didn't make any effort to go in the community. Coach Arroyo was here for 3 years, and Odom's already gone to more high schools than Arroyo did. What does that tell you? The guy is not a people person. He's just not. And I think Eric Harper's an extremely intelligent guy. He knows what he's doing, and I understand. Odom is not a big name. A lot of people in Vegas had no idea who this guy was. I understand that, but who cares? The bottom line is, as long as you win, that's all that matters. And if Odom could get UNLV football to a bowl game in year one, he's going to be a hero. And Eric Harper's going to look like a hero. I believe that could happen here. And that they've lost some key players. I get it. Some players have transferred over. Odom's going to have to work his ass off with recruiting over the course of the summer. But I like the fact that he's a defensive-minded coach. By the way, in closing here, I'll move on from UNLV now, so you can get rid of the song now. I don't know. Is there a Lakers Celtics song? I don't know. But I just wanted to say I don't watch a lot of NBA basketball, Mark, but that Lakers Celtics game yesterday was very entertaining for a regular season game. I don't like the regular season NBA product, but my Celtics, people are going to get angry at me for that. Tatum hitting that huge shot to get into overtime, and then the Lakers just ran out of gas. They're old, man. They look like some senior citizens out there in overtime, but that was a fun game. That really was. Hey, we got a fun show lined up for you tomorrow, folks. I'm really looking forward to this. The Desert Dogs are starting their season on Friday night in Vegas. Wayne Gretzky, of course, Steve Nash, Dustin Johnson, part ownership of the team. The head coach of the Desert Dogs, Sean Williams, is going to be joining us. In-studio guest, 13-year NBA career. Had some good years with the Milwaukee Bucks. He now lives here in Vegas. They call him Mo. Paul McKeskey going to be joining us. He's a big guy. He's like 7 feet tall. He's going to be joining us in studio hour one. And then, as I mentioned, UNLV head football coach Barry Odom will be joining us as well. So we're going to have a fun show tomorrow. Look forward to it. Thanks to Mark. And we will join you same time, same place tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn, that true blue New York style pie?